So we have to evaluate what's going on. And then we need to connect. And I say connect, it's big. We tend to use a metaphor when we talk about kids as they're having holes in their understanding, like they're like Swiss cheese. And it's like all we got to do is plug the holes. But I don't know if you've ever tried to plug holes in Swiss cheese. But unless you melt it and reform it, that stuff tends to just fall out, as it does with most things. Unless the material bonds, plugging a hole doesn't work. So you have to really make a strong connection. And sometimes that means going back. What's your informal experience that you've had? Or giving kids an informal, concrete experience and building on that. Or giving them that's true whether it's reading or in math. I want to connect to something. I have to have a mental model in order to attach this new learning to it. So what is that mental model? And kids can be all over the place. So finding out what each kid's mental model is tough. So when you want to fix stuff and get them on track, you may have to give something people common, or you have to have really smart technology that's going to say, for Raylene, I'm going to give this model. But for Deborah, I'm going to give a totally different model because she's had a totally different experience from Raylene. I mean, look at her. I don't know what that was about, but what the heck. But we're all different. We're all different. We all have different experiences. It's the algebra project, for instance, that Bob Moses does. It's an intervention program, and it's really interesting. But it's totally customized. So he goes to Atlanta. He takes kids on the subway. And he uses the subway, that concrete experience, to build their math understanding. Because the kids know the subway. That's a model that they have, and he can use that. The teachers don't know the subway. They know the highway. So the teachers are going the other direction. They're taking the math and applying it to the subway. So there's a real disconnect often between what the teachers are doing from their experiences and what the kids' experiences are. And with the textbooks, when they talk about, well, now we're going to do, they'd use baking as a model, and it's like, kids are going like, what? You know, huh? So we have to find the right connection for kids or give it to them. And starting with what they know and building on that to the new. And then, so we can build on from what they already know, which means we have to find it, or we need to rebuild. We need to start from scratch and build the models with them together and then build on that. And this is often easier because there's a lot of kids. It's tough to find the right thing to start with. What is their known that we're going to build on so that the plugs in the Swiss cheese don't fall out? So we got to connect. We evaluate, we connect, and we got to differentiate. And this is a place, again, where technology plays a great role. And so you think about the demands and the resources. So we can do things. We can adjust the demands. We can tune and make the demand either simpler or more complex, if that's appropriate. We can also tune the resources that are available. We can give you more scaffolding or less scaffolding. So matching those two things. I want you to be able to do this task. Great. How much support do we have to give which kid to help them do that? I want you to do this range of tasks. Which one do I start with and move you up, and how much support do I bring to them? So we don't always have to diminish the task, whether that's reading or it's math. We can give them, this is the task we want you to do. And then you have to pull out, you got to make sure you're really narrow. You want to pull out all the interference stuff. So if I want you to add, if my focus is on adding fractions of uncommon denominators, 3/5 and 2/4, I want you to add those two things. I don't want to put that in the middle of a story problem that's got stuff about, that's got, at the foot of a mountain, he was 2/5. What's the foot of a mountain? I never heard that idiom before. Why? You know, it's like, you want to get rid of all that stuff. Focus on the task. And then, okay, great, I've gotten rid of everything else. Now what support do I need to do? And then this is the kind of thing we can do where the computer can dial up or dial down. I'm going to give you a glossary. I'm going to give you a different representation. I'm going to do all these different things. We can adapt the instruction and the practice, smart scaffolding. And the goal is to keep it in that attention. I don't want it to be too easy. I don't want it to be too hard. I want it to be just hard enough. And it's got to be hard. A little hard, the zone of proximal development. The zone of proximal development for Vygotsky, it's the thing that I can do with a little help. It's the next thing I can do. I'm not there. It's like the next thing I can do with just a little bit of help. That's what growth is about, the next thing. Getting kids in that spot, that's what we're after. Because it's really satisfying. Oh my gosh, there's great cognitive research out there about how satisfying it is to do challenging stuff. And when you go into a classroom, the best, you go into a classroom where the kids are asking for harder problems. Because they like it. Because they can do it. That's totally related to the affect. If I believe I can do it, and you give me something that's like, wow, I didn't think I could do that. That feels pretty good. It's chemical. It's not, it's not made up. There's stuff that's being released in your brain that feels good. I want more of that. It's like drugs. Success breeds success. That's what we're after here. I'm trying to adjust the space for kids to differentiate the experience because they're in different places to get them in that role of, I like this. This is good. Give me more of that. That's what we're after. And then we have to value it. And value it in two ways. We have to value their effort. And this is one of the things that comes out of the research. We can so quickly undermine the effort that kids have put in by saying, you're so smart. Raylene is so smart. Deborah, Raylene is so smart. That means that all that's telling me is that, see, she was born at it. She was born with it. As opposed to, that was a great effort. Raylene, I really like the way you took and you drew a number line and you saw this here. That's praising the task rather than the person. You want to praise the effort that they've done as opposed to saying, he's just good at it. You don't want to reinforce it. It's so easy to undermine. And we're so used to saying, oh, that guy's so smart. And my poor kid, I read this research. My poor kid, he was no longer smart. Right? It's like, you are so effortful, Jake. Oh my gosh, that's so great. It's good. And he does work hard. I mean, he's a hard worker. And he's pretty smart. I mean, he's got a lot of the tools. But it was great seeing LeBron James, even though he blew it in the NBA playoffs, it was so great having him say, the reason that I do this is because of my work ethic. Yes, I have a lot of gifts, but it's because of my work ethic that I'm able to take advantage of it. And that's true with kids. There are kids who are born with good working memory. They see stuff, they remember it. But they can squander that in the same way that a 7-foot guy can be a bad basketball player. There's no guarantee that because you have the natural ability, gifts, hardware to work with, that you will be successful. Oh, okay. So you have to value it, reward the perseverance, and then you have to value the result. There's a reason to learn this stuff. It's making you a better person. It's making you smart. It's making you a better thinker. There are places that we can apply that. So that's what it's about. I want to thank you for working so hard at being an attentive audience. It's not that you're smart or anything, but you did such a good job being an attentive audience.